It all started when I woke up in the hospital, my head spinning and my body aching. The harsh smell of antiseptic mixed with the soft beeping of machines around me. And it took a few moments before I remembered how I ended up here. I had been in a car accident, a head-on collision that changed everything in an instant. But what I didn't expect when I opened my eyes was what my husband, Mark, said next. He stood at the foot of my bed, looking different. His face was cold, like a stranger's. I tried to speak, to ask how long I'd been out, but he cut me off before I could say a word. "I'm done," he said, his voice flat, emotionless. "I have someone else. We're done. The house is sold. It's over." My heart sank. His words felt like ice, stabbing straight through my chest. The pain in my body faded into nothing as I tried to process what he had just said. This couldn't be real. Before I could gather my thoughts, the nurse entered and Mark quickly walked out of the room, leaving me alone with nothing but the empty space where his love used to be. Hey, everyone, before I continue, drop a comment below telling me the time and where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, there's more to come. Stay tuned as I share more of this story. The next few days in the hospital felt like a blur. My body was healing, but my heart, that was another story entirely. Mark didn't visit me after that day. No calls, no texts, no visits from the man I had shared my life with for the last 10 years. Instead, I found myself surrounded by sympathy from friends and family, all offering their support, but none of it could fill the void he left behind. I started thinking about everything we had built together. Our first date, our wedding day, the house we had worked so hard for. It all seemed so distant now, like another lifetime. My mind kept going back to those words he said. I have someone else. Who was she? How long had this been going on? Was I really that blind? And then it hit me. Was he already in love with her before the accident? Was it all just a lie? All those years of trusting him, sharing my hopes and dreams, only to have it ripped away in a single conversation. I couldn't understand why he'd leave me like this at my lowest. In a hospital bed, struggling to recover when I needed him the most. I felt a lump form in my throat, and for a moment, I thought I might break down. But I couldn't. I couldn't let him see me weak. So I did what any woman would do in a moment of crisis. I pulled myself together. I focused on getting better. I had to. I had no choice. Days passed, and the hospital room became my world. I went through the motions, eating the bland food, doing the rehab exercises, but all the while, my heart was in turmoil. One day, as I sat by the window, staring out at the world I didn't feel a part of anymore, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mark. "I'm taking the kids to the new house tomorrow." I stared at it for what felt like hours. I wanted to text him back, yell at him, cry, beg him to come back, but I didn't. I knew that wasn't the answer. I had to find my own strength, and that's when I decided to change everything. I couldn't be the woman who sat in the shadows, crying over a man who had already moved on. I had to start living for me again, but little did I know, this would be the beginning of an even bigger journey. The days following Mark's text felt like I was walking through a fog. Each step was heavier than the last, but something inside me kept pushing forward. I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I knew I couldn't stay stuck in the past. I had to figure out who I was without him. The hospital staff kept telling me I was making progress with my physical recovery, but emotionally, I was a wreck. Every time I saw someone walk into my room, I have expected it to be Mark, only to be disappointed when it wasn't. My friends and family visited, but it wasn't the same. They didn't understand. How could they? No one had ever been through this kind of betrayal. It was during one of these lonely nights that I decided I needed a change. I was sick of feeling sorry for myself, sick of being the victim. I wasn't going to let this define me. One morning, the door opened and my nurse walked in. She had a smile on her face, but it faltered when she saw mine. I was lying in bed, my hands resting on my stomach, just staring at the ceiling. "How are we feeling today?" She asked gently, checking my vitals. I'm ready to go home, I said, surprising myself. I hadn't even planned on saying it out loud, but the words slipped out. The nurse paused, looking at me carefully. Are you sure you're ready? The doctor said you still need a bit more recovery time. I nodded, sitting up slowly. I've been here long enough. I need to get out of here and start living again. Besides, what's left for me here? She studied me for a moment before giving a soft nod. I understand. If you feel up to it, we'll start the discharge process. As she left the room, I sat up completely, my feet touching the cold tile floor. My heart was still aching, but there was a new determination growing inside me. The very thought of returning to the house felt like a prison, knowing Mark was already gone. But I couldn't stay in this hospital bed forever. I needed to be somewhere I could start fresh, somewhere away from everything that reminded me of him. I asked my sister if I could stay with her for a while, and she was more than happy to have me. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The first night at my sister's house was strange. The walls were unfamiliar, and the bed felt too small compared to the one I'd left behind. But it was peaceful. No reminders of Mark, no empty spaces where his presence used to be. I spent the next few days trying to regain some normalcy. I called my lawyer to start the process of divorce, something I never imagined I'd have to do. But when I saw the life I'd built with him crumble so easily, I knew there was no going back. One morning, my sister came into my room while I was scrolling through my phone, checking my emails. You okay? She asked, her voice filled with concern. I shrugged, not really knowing how to answer. I don't know. I feel like a stranger in my own life. Like everything I thought I knew is gone. She sat beside me on the bed, rubbing my back in a comforting gesture. It's going to take time. You're not alone in this. You're stronger than you think. I nodded, but I didn't feel strong. The only thing I felt was the weight of loss. Later that afternoon, I went out to run errands with my sister. I wasn't in the mood for shopping, but I figured it would be a good distraction. As we walked into a store, I saw a woman in the aisle who looked vaguely familiar. She was looking through some clothes, her long brown hair cascading over her shoulders. And then it hit me. She was the woman Mark had been seeing. She turned toward me and our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us said anything. My heart raced in my chest, but I didn't show it. I was trying to stay calm, trying to act like I didn't know. She quickly glanced away, her face going pale. I could see the guilt written all over her face, but I didn't care. I wasn't the one who had done anything wrong. I walked past her, my hands gripping the shopping cart tightly as if holding onto something real in the midst of everything that had shattered. When I reached the checkout, my sister was still behind me, clearly confused. What's wrong? Do you know her? I didn't answer right away. I paid for my things in silence, then turned to my sister. She's the one. Her eyes widened as realization set in. You mean the other woman? I nodded, feeling a wave of emotion rise within me, but I held it back. Yeah, that's her. I tried to shake off the encounter with the woman, but it lingered in my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. The same face that Mark had probably been looking at while he told me that he was done. When we got home, I locked myself in the room and stared at the ceiling. I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. The life I had built, the family I thought I knew, was slipping through my fingers like sand. I picked up my phone and for the first time in days, I typed a message to Mark. I saw her today. My hands trembled as I hit send and then I waited. It didn't take long for his reply to come through. I'm sorry you had to see her like that. I didn't want it to happen this way, but I've made my choice. The words were blunt, almost too cold, like he didn't even care. I stared at my phone, unsure of what I was supposed to feel. Should I be angry, sad? Or should I be relieved that he had finally chosen? I didn't know the answer. Instead of replying, I put my phone down and took a deep breath. I was done with him. Done with the hurt, done with the lies, done with trying to make sense of a relationship that had no future. That night, I decided to go out for a walk. The evening air was cool against my skin, and the quiet streets felt like a haven. With each step I took, I could feel my heart starting to heal, even if it was just a little bit. As I walked through the neighborhood, I noticed the familiar homes. Some of them looked so ordinary, so peaceful. It was almost like I was seeing the world through new eyes. And it was both comforting and terrifying. I stopped by a small park near my sister's house. Sitting on a bench under the light of the street lamp, I closed my eyes and let the silence wash over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt free from the past, free from the pain. But that peace didn't last long. A car pulled up to the park, its headlights cutting through the darkness. I didn't pay much attention, thinking it was just someone passing through, but then the car stopped and the engine cut off. I turned to see who it was. It was Mark. My stomach twisted and my heart started pounding. Why was he here? Was he coming to apologize? Was he going to try to fix what he had broken? He stepped out of the car slowly, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. For a moment, he just stood there staring at me from a distance. I couldn't tell what he was thinking, and honestly, I didn't want to know. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice steady but trembling with emotion. He walked toward me slowly, looking hesitant, like he wasn't sure how to approach me after everything that had happened. "I wanted to talk," he said quietly. I couldn't believe it. After all that had happened, after everything he had put me through, he was standing there asking to talk. "I don't think there's anything left to talk about," I replied, shaking my head. "You made your choice, Mark. You said it yourself, you're done." His expression faltered and I could see the guilt and regret flash across his face. "I know," he said. "I've made mistakes. But I've been thinking, maybe we can work things out. Maybe we can start over." I let out a bitter laugh. "Start over? After you sold the house, after you left me in a hospital bed to deal with this on my own? You want to start over?" He stepped closer, but I held up a hand to stop him. "No, Mark. You don't get to come back into my life like this. You don't get to make everything right just because you feel guilty. You made your choice and I've made mine." I felt tears pricking at the corners of my eyes, but I wiped them away quickly. I wasn't going to cry in front of him. Not anymore. Mark stood there in silence for a long moment, then let out a long sigh. "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for everything. But I can't undo what I've done. I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good," I said firmly. "Because I'm not going to." With that, I stood up and turned away from him. I walked back toward my sister's house. My heart still heavy but a little bit lighter than before. Quick pause here. Remember to comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. More of this story is coming soon. Stay with me. The next few days were a whirlwind. I didn't see Mark again, but he kept sending texts, trying to apologize, trying to explain himself. I ignored every single one of them. I started focusing more on myself. I went to therapy, not just to talk about what had happened, but to learn how to rebuild my life from the ground up. I didn't want to be the person who just let life happen to her. I wanted to take control, to stand on my own 2 feet. And then something unexpected happened. I ran into the woman again. It was at a coffee shop, of all places. I didn't see her at first, but then I heard a familiar voice. She was talking to the barista, her laugh ringing out in the quiet space. I froze. I felt my heart skip a beat, but I didn't want to let her see the effect she had on me. I wasn't going to let her know how much it hurt. So I walked past her, pretending I didn't see her. But she saw me. She stopped mid-sentence and turned toward me, her eyes wide with surprise. For a moment, we just stood there staring at each other, before she took a deep breath and approached me. "Hi," she said hesitantly. "I didn't expect to run into you." I nodded, forcing a small smile. "Yeah. Small world." There was an awkward pause before she spoke again. "Look, I just wanted to apologize for everything that's happened. I never wanted to hurt you." I could tell she was genuine, but the pain of what Mark had done was still fresh. I didn't know how to respond, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at him. You don't have to apologize to me, I said, my voice calm. He's the one who made the choice. She nodded slowly. I know. But I still feel like I owe you something. Like I'm part of the mess he made. I shook my head. We're both part of it, but I'm not going to let him destroy me. I'm moving on. And that was it. No more anger, no more tears, just a quiet resolve to keep moving forward. After that day at the coffee shop, something inside me shifted for the first time. I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was slowly, quietly starting to live again. But life didn't plan to make it easy for me. A week later, I finally had the strength to check my email properly. Most of it was junk and bills, until one message made my heart skip. It was from a real estate agency. Congratulations! The house has officially been transferred to the new owner. My hands went cold. The house. My house. The place where I had imagined birthdays, holidays, and growing old. The place I had painted with my own hands. The place Mark had sold without even speaking to me. And then I noticed something strange. The buyer's name was hidden. Only one letter was visible: S. I stared at the screen, a strange feeling growing in my stomach. Who was S? Why did the name look like it was hidden on purpose? My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text message from an unknown number. Unknown, I know this is shocking, but I need to talk to you. It's about the house. My breathing stopped for a second. Me, who is this? There was a pause. Then 3 dots appeared. Typing, stopped, typing again. Unknown, you don't know me yet. But I'm the one who bought your house, and you deserve the truth. My mind started racing. Why? Would the new owner contact me? What truth? Me, if you have something to say, just say it. A minute passed. Then the message came. Unknown, the house was not meant to be taken from you. It was meant to be returned to the right person. My heart started pounding so fast I could hear it in my ears. Returned to the right person? None of this made sense. Before I could reply, another message came in. Unknown, meet me tomorrow. Same coffee shop. 3 p.m. You need to hear this in person. I stared at the screen for a long time. Every warning in my head told me not to go. But another part of me, the stronger part, told me this might be the key to finally understanding everything Mark had done. The next day came faster than I expected. I sat at the same coffee shop, my hands wrapped around a warm cup I wasn't even drinking. My eyes kept moving to the door every time it opened. 3:01 p.m., 3:03 p.m., 3:05 p.m. Just when I thought they wouldn't come, the door opened again. And this time, my heart almost stopped. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't the other woman either. It was Mark's older brother, Daniel. The one he had cut ties with years ago. The one he always said was dangerous and untrustworthy. The one I had only seen once at our wedding. He walked toward my table slowly. You came, he said quietly. My throat went dry. Why did you buy the house? I asked, going straight to the point. And what does any of this have to do with Mark? Daniel sat down across from me. His eyes looked serious, heavy, like he had been carrying a secret for a long time. Because, he said softly, Mark didn't sell the house because he was in love. I froze. He sold it because he was in trouble. My fingers tightened around the cup. What kind of trouble? I whispered. Daniel leaned closer, lowering his voice. He owes people a lot of money. Dangerous people, and you were never supposed to find out. I stared at Daniel, not sure if I should believe him or run away. Mark told me he found someone else, I said carefully. He said our marriage was over. Daniel let out a slow, sad laugh. That's the story he wanted you to believe. Why? My voice shook. Because if you thought he just fell in love, you'd hate him. But you'd stop asking questions. A cold chill ran down my back. So the other woman, I asked. She's real, Daniel said, but she's part of the people he owes. She was sent to watch him, to pressure him, to control him. My mind couldn't even process that. You're telling me my entire marriage ended because of money and fear? I said. I'm telling you, Daniel replied. That Mark didn't just break your heart, he's hiding something much bigger. And now, it might involve you too. My eyes widened. Involve me how? Daniel reached into his jacket and carefully placed a small envelope on the table. In this envelope, he whispered, is the real reason your accident happened. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. You think that crash was an accident? He asked slowly. Then he looked straight into my eyes and said the words that shook my soul. It wasn't he. Stay close, because what's inside that envelope is about to change everything. My fingers trembled as I stared at the envelope Daniel had placed on the table. It looked so small, so ordinary, yet it felt heavier than anything I had ever held in my life. You think my crash wasn't an accident? I whispered again, hoping he would somehow change his mind and say he made a mistake. Daniel's jaw tightened. I know it wasn't. And what's inside that envelope will prove it. For a moment, I couldn't move. The coffee shop noise faded into the background. The only thing I could hear was my own heartbeat, loud and scared inside my chest. Slowly, carefully, I picked up the envelope. What is it? I asked. Pictures, names, a timeline, everything Mark never wanted you to see, he replied quietly. My hand shook as I opened it and slid the papers out onto the table. The first thing I saw made my stomach twist. Pictures of my car. The damaged side. The broken light. The exact spot where I lost control. And then another picture. A man standing near my car the night of the accident. Clothing all in black. Face partly hidden. But there was something familiar about the way he stood. The shape of his body, the slight bend of his shoulders. No, I whispered. That can't be. What do you see? Daniel asked. I can't see his face clearly, I said. Staring harder. But he looks like your husband, Daniel finished for me. My breath caught in my throat. You think Mark did this to me? I asked, my voice barely surviving. Daniel looked around carefully and lowered his voice even more. I think Mark was forced to choose between you and what he owed, he said. And someone else may have made the decision for him. A cold shiver ran all the way down my spine. I looked at the next paper. Bank transfers. Large amounts. Desperate withdrawals. Dates I remembered clearly. One date was the same day as my accident. He needed your name off the house papers, Daniel continued. If you were gone, he wouldn't have to split anything. He could sell fast and pay his debt. Tears filled my eyes. So I wasn't just a forgotten wife in a hospital, I muttered. I was a problem he needed gone. Daniel didn't answer, which told me everything. Suddenly, my phone vibrated on the table. A message from Mark. Mark, please stop digging into things you don't understand. You're not safe. My blood turned cold. I looked up at Daniel in fear. How does he know I'm here? Daniel's face went pale. Because he's watching you, he whispered. And now that you know the truth, he's going to do anything to protect himself. I grabbed my bag quickly. I need to leave. Daniel grabbed my hand. No, you need to disappear. Disappear? I panicked. He nodded. At least for a while. Until I get you proof strong enough to expose him. And what if he finds me before you get it? I asked, my whole body shaking. Daniel looked straight into my eyes and said something that made the world feel like it was cracking apart. Then you're not just dealing with your husband anymore, you're dealing with the people he owes. Listen closely, everyone, if you're still here. Type the time and where you're watching from in the comments and hit that subscribe button. Because this story is getting serious now, you don't want to miss what happens next. Daniel stood up. Come with me. Right now. You can't go back to your sister's place. But that's the only safe place I have, I cried. It's not safe anymore, he replied. You're already being tracked. My heart felt like it would explode as I followed him out of the coffee shop. Every car that passed felt like it was following me. Every person felt like a spy. He opened the door to his car. Get in. Before I could even sit down properly, another vehicle pulled up behind us. Dark windows, engine still running, my breath froze. Daniel looked through the mirror and his entire face changed. They found you faster than I expected, he whispered. The door of the dark car slowly opened. A foot stepped out, then another, and the person walking toward us was the last person on earth I ever expected to see. My heart nearly stopped when I saw her. It was my best friend, Clara. The same Clara who held my hand on my wedding day. The same Clara who cried with me in the hospital. The same Clara who told me I would be okay when Mark left me. She walked toward us slowly, her face calm, almost empty of emotion. Clara, I whispered, stepping back, what are you doing here? Daniel's hand tightened on the car door. Do you know her? He asked me quietly. Yes, I said, my voice breaking. She's been my best friend for 10 years. Clara stopped a few feet away, her eyes locked on mine. And for the first time, I didn't see love in them. I only saw distance. I'm sorry it had to be this way, she said softly. My stomach turned upside down. What way? I asked, shaking. Clara, what are you talking about? She glanced at Daniel, then back at me. You were never meant to get this close to the truth. Daniel pulled me farther behind him. You work for them, he said, anger rising in his voice. Clara didn't answer him. She just kept staring at me. Since when? I cried. Since when did you start lying to me? Her lips pressed together for a moment. You think Mark is the only one who made bad choices? She asked. Some of us were dragged into it. Dragged into what? I shouted, my heart shattered. Clara took a slow breath. Mark didn't just owe money, he made promises. Dangerous ones. And when he couldn't keep them, he offered something else instead. My body started to go cold. He offered me, I whispered. Clara didn't say yes. She didn't say no. Her silence was the answer. Tears poured down my face as I shook my head. No, he wouldn't, not me. He thought if you were out of the way, she said, everything would go back to normal. Daniel cursed under his breath. This is worse than I thought. Clara suddenly stepped back when another shadow moved behind her. Another person stepping out of the dark car, a man, tall, broad shoulders, face covered by sunglasses. Even though the sun was going down, he walked forward, like he owned the ground beneath his feet. Daniel stiffened. That's him, he whispered. That's the one Mark owes. The man stopped in front of us. He slowly removed his glasses and then smiled. You're hard to get rid of, he said, looking straight at me. My entire body froze. I don't even know you, I whispered. He chuckled. You don't need to. You just need to get back in the car where you belong. I'm not going anywhere with you, I said, stepping back. He tilted his head slightly. You already owe me your life. Your husband made sure of that. Daniel leaned toward me and whispered urgently, when I say run, don't look back. My heart began pounding so loudly I thought everyone could hear it. The man took another step closer. So here's how this is going to work, he said calmly. You will come with us quietly, and no one gets hurt. Clara looked down at the ground, her face full of shame. Please, I whispered to her. Clara, help me. She didn't move. The man reached his hand toward me. And in that exact moment, Daniel shouted, run. I turned and started running as fast as my legs could carry me, my lungs burning, my heart tearing, not even knowing where I was going. Only knowing one thing for sure now, my life wasn't just broken, it was being hunted. My hands were shaking as the phone slipped from my fingers and landed on the hospital bed. The beeping of the machines suddenly felt louder, like they were screaming the same question over and over. Inside my head, how could he do this to me? Around me, nurses and patients moved in and out. But everything felt slow, distant, unreal. My heart felt heavy, not only because of the sickness in my body, but because of the sickness in the truth I had just heard. I was busy dying and he was busy replacing me, I whispered to myself. 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. I had nowhere to go. The house I had built with love, the walls that had heard my laughter and cried with me in my pain, was now gone. Sold. Given away. Erased like I never existed. With nothing but a small bag of clothes and a heart full of questions, I went to my sister's tiny apartment. She opened the door and didn't ask a single question. She just held me while I cried. For the first time in days, I felt warmth again. Not from love lost, but from love that stayed. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Slowly, I began to heal, not just in my body, but in my soul. I got a small job at a local library. The pay was little, but it gave me purpose. Every morning, I looked in the mirror and said, "You are still here. That means your story isn't over yet." One afternoon, as I was arranging books on a shelf, I heard a familiar voice. "Is it really you?" I turned around. Smaller, tired, and afraid, "The woman I left you for. I lost the house, I lost my job, and I lost you. I'm so sorry." For a moment, the air felt tight. My heart remembered the pain, the tears, the loneliness, the betrayal, but then something strange happened. Instead of anger, I felt peace. "I've already forgiven you," I said quietly, "not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." He started to cry, but I didn't step forward. I didn't reach for him. I didn't go back. Because I had finally learned something important. Sometimes people have to lose you in order to understand your value. And sometimes you have to lose people to finally understand your own. I walked past him, back to my desk, back to my healing, back to my life. Outside, the sun felt warmer. The sky felt wider. And for the first time in a long time, I breathed freely. I didn't need him to survive. I had already found myself again. And that version of me? She was stronger, wiser, unbreakable. Moral lessons from this story: never abandon someone who stood by you in your weakest moments. True love is proven during hard times, not easy ones. Your value is not defined by who walks away from you. Sometimes betrayal is the push you need to find your true strength. Forgiveness is not for others. It is for your own peace. The person who hurts you today may later realize they lost their greatest blessing. If this story touched your heart in any way, comment below. I choose self-worth. Like this video to show your support. Share it with someone who needs strength right now. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next powerful story. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it there? I'd love to see how far this message reached. Your story isn't over, and neither is this channel's journey with you. Stay tuned for the next one.